that we have in the United States. Once again, going back to the issue that I feel in my own field, colleagues of mine who write the same kinds of books that I write, you put together all the books that all my field, we've got millions and millions of us. The transformational community, I mean, there are millions of us, but it has tended to be a kind of apolitical sector. And as I said earlier, we should be the biggest grown-ups. And also, I think that it keeps us kind of infantilized. I think that the higher consciousness community is not given the kind of attention and seriousness that it should be given by the culture because we don't take on the more serious issues. If anybody should be dealing with the issue of evil, we should be weighing in. Because once again, if you're talking about the deeper issues, so when you're talking about, the only way to counter evil is to create good, so we should be the first people arguing over the last few decades how if more people around the world had seen the American flag decal on schools and hospitals and roads and supporting genuinely democratic institutions, they might have been not been so vulnerable to ideological capture by genuinely dark forces that hate them. We should have been the first thing. George Washington talked about this, and Tim and I were talking last night. He was talking about some things that John Kennedy said. I'm afraid Americans have become soft, and not in a good way. We're too distracted. We have a culture of distraction. You wake up in the morning, you turn on the internet, you turn on the computer, turn on your phone, turn on television, and we are constantly bombarded by everything ranging from the utterly meaningless to the seriously heinous. And they're given the same because we have such an ethical breakdown in our media, which no longer serves the kind of journalistic standards many of us were brought up to expect. Since the 1990s, I'm sorry to say, under Bill Clinton, when Michael Powell changed the rules. When I was a child, the part of the news department that was the news wasn't even on the same floor of the building as the part that sold ads. And before the 1990s, the same company was not allowed to own the radio station and the newspaper and the TV station because they wanted diversification of opinion. That was changed under Michael Powell in the 1990s. He said, well, people will still have the internet. This is why we use terms like mainstream media. So the same article that used to get a Pulitzer Prize now is more likely to get somebody fired because the Pulitzer Prize was given because they exposed the chemical pollution in the factory downriver, but now too often that story would be squelched or the writer would even be fired because the same company, the same corporate entity that owns the television station or the newspaper owns that factory. But this is something which too many of us have come to expect. That's the real problem. The problem is psychological. The problem is emotional. The problem is spiritual. We've just come to expect it. And so at this point, Americans are acquiescing far too easily. So many of the things that Tim is talking about, there's an answer to this. Elect new people. There's an answer to this. Elect new people. To know that the change has got to come from the inside. The change doesn't come from the inside and you step aside. We're not sent by God to ignore the darkness, we're sent to transform the darkness. Martin Luther King didn't just say love your enemy, he also said boycott the lost company. So I think that that's an extremely important issue that many of us need to understand. It's a psychological issue. What the hell's going on and why are we standing for this? That's the biggest issue. Why are we, the American people,